Okay, everyone, this is John Haller with Fellowship Bible Chapel. I'm going to assume that I'm going live, and I've got some things coming up here. Just let me double check. That's not the right one. Hang on. Um, YouTube channel. Okay, looks like we're live. Okay, everybody, sorry about that. This is one of the vagaries of trying to do stuff with a staff of one. And I have a friend with me, and he has a staff of one also. So between us, we're almost one human being, right, Mark?
We are. But I think maybe you're a bit more human than I am.
Well, I'm a Nephilim, though. You know, you saw me in Israel. I don't really
Uh,
fit in things in Israel. So listen,
uh,
this is Mark Sutherland, my friend from the UK. We just spent a week together in Israel at the Christian Media Summit. We do talk and text quite a bit. Mark is a great reporter, thinker, does a lot of things on um, different things. If was somebody would just make, oh, yes, they can hear us. Good.
yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to talk. We've sort of humbly decided to call this. I decided to call this Israel and World Update in 1 hour or so with Mark Sutherland and John Haller. So, Mark, I guess you made it back to the UK. Okay, or correct? Well, right?
I did make it back to the UK. As you can see, I'm in my humble studio at the top of my house. So yes, I made it back. Care of the British Embassy taxi service, but I won't say too much about it because I don't want to make you and others jealous.
I
Okay.
I did it the old-fashioned way. You know, I
Mm.
got my own cab. Mark was very helpful to me though. When we left the media summit, I was staying over a few days, and he helped me get my luggage to the Christchurch guest house over by the Jaffa, inside the Jaffa Gate in the old city of Jerusalem. And we maybe if we have time, we could talk about how to deal with a whiny Arab cab driver.
Yeah.
Uh, that guy was very annoying. He wanted more money, said it would take too long, then he got there faster, then he wanted more money because he got there faster. So I said, but now you can go get another fare. So see ya.
Well,
Uh,
he it's interesting because this gives people an idea of what's going on about over there, and it's something that you have talked about last week in shows, particularly with the round table that you did with Patrick Wood and three other gentlemen on that show, and you were talking about the amount of traffic in Jerusalem, John. It is off the charts, isn't it? It's just
it's insane. I mean, you
mm,
go down Jaffa Street. When I came in, Mark, were you collateral British royalty or something? Is that why you got the taxi service from the airport and the guy to meet you? And I had to take the train and light rail in. And so Mark sees me, came and rescued me walking down the driveway of the hotel there in Jerusalem. And to give you an idea how much construction there is, folks, our hotel was just a little bit over a mile from the Jaffa Gate in the old city.
mm,
When I looked that up on Google Maps before we left, they were telling me an hour and 10 or 15 minutes to get 1 mile in a car. And even I could probably walk it in less time. Now our guy did do a little bit of couple U-turns that I don't think were permitted, and he got us there in what, 16 and a half minutes or something like that. It was amazing. So, but the construction in traffic in Jerusalem is just off the charts. I mean, you go down Jaffa Street as I came in on the light rail. When I got there, it's about 90, it seemed like it was 95 degrees. And every available lot had a construction sign on it. And then
absolutely.
when you walk down the street, you look down in the hole, you can look through the barrier. And these foundation holes are like 70, 80, 90 feet deep.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shocking. And I don't know what they're going to do with traffic. I know they're building new light rail lines and everything, but they're planning on a lot of Jewish people coming to Israel. So anyway, let's talk. So Mark, let's maybe first, let's just kind of do a quick summary and overview of what you learned from the media summit and some important takeaways. And then we'll kind of go into the events of just the last 24 hours that are related to Israel and the world. I was sort of jokingly thinking when I was planning this, it's sort of like, well, maybe we'll just um, we'll do current events, last 24 hours, in ancient history, things that have happened in the last week. Because I mean, you agree with me? I think everything is happening so fast right now; it's
Yes.
almost impossible to keep up.
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think one of the wonderful things about, the communication that we have is that we can pass messages on, pass news items on, and also, and in doing that, we're passing our concerns on, and things are moving so fast. People might record a show and then put it out in 3 or 4 days' time, and it's too late. It's
Yeah, you hope that the shelf life of what you put up actually
yeah,
lasts
yeah,
past,
mm,
dinner tonight
mm,
or something
mm,
like that.
mm.
So anyway, what did the? I mean, I think you asked me if you should go to the fellowship, to the Christian Media Summit, and I said yeah, and then I sent a thing in, and you got invited, and then you had better cab service than I did. So that,
Well, I
not that
mean,
I'm bitter about that, by the
no,
way.
no. Well, don't worry. We're prey after. But I hear you. I hear you. I mean, joking apart, I was extremely shocked to get off the plane, get into Tel Aviv, and then there's some young member of the airport staff go with my name on it, and then that happened on the way back, and then as we discovered, that was something that the British authorities had arranged for me, just to say officially, thank you very much indeed, but I didn't ask for it. But I think that's very, very good, very interesting. But it also it shows me who is actually who is talking to each other, which authorities are talking to each other, what messages our passports are saying, what messages are our social media saying, etc. So there is maybe a bit of a warning for all of us within that. But John, no, I was very grateful to go. I felt it was a real privilege to go, and especially you correct me. Someone said that there was something like I don't know how many countries were represented, but I thought there was a figure of 34. But I don't know how we get to that.
Yeah,
But there was
I would say about half of the participants at the media summit were American, and the other half, I think there was maybe 160 total, if I
mm,
remember, because of
mm,
the population of people on the bus. Three buses of about 50,
mm,
53 people each. And so there were a lot of people from Africa, a lot of people from Europe. I mean, I met people from Indonesia,
yeah.
Malaysia, India, Kenya,
Singapore,
Singapore,
yep.
Zambia, the UK. It was a pretty broad thing. So, I mean, what was most meaningful to you? Give me a couple, two, three items that you really thought was very, um, um, what really kind of hit you? Just
Well,
two
no,
or three.
no, thank you. I mean, I just to say, I was out there in May with a few friends. We were filming. We'd been to Jordan, and then we crossed into Israel. So that was the first time that I'd actually been to Israel in my life. So it was a real joy to be there in May, and then to be back in this tour. And the thing that hit me, which I did not have time to do last time, was to go to the Nova Festival site, to the memorial site, and spend time there. Um, and then, but before that, we were down at the kibbutzim near Oz, which is in what they call the Gaza envelope. And we all stood outside the dear Bebas family home. I think that was I found that quite a moment. And I think the other thing is, John, we had discussed this. I discussed this with other people and other friends. we go on these tour. We go on this particular tour specifically to gather information, to take pictures, to film things. Um, and I then had to work this through in my mind that suddenly I was in this kibbutzim where there used to be 400 people. The 400 people that lived there, 200 people had been killed or taken hostage. And those events really, really dawned on you when you've been looking at them through, your links on your phone or through the TV, through television or through computer, e.g., through news. It seems a lot more at arm's length, even though you are really very, very interested, quite rightly, in catching up with what has been going on since the 7th of October 2023. But to then suddenly be there, this is not, it's not a movie set. This is people's lives. This is real. That really hit me again, especially when and I know you pointed out when we went into the communal. There's that communal eating room there. There's bullet holes in the glass doors before you go in, and as you pointed out, where people had lockers, and there were, I think, red and black labels on those indicating either
The
hostage
red,
or
yeah, the red ones indicated murdered. They were in
right.
Hebrew. And
Yeah.
by the way, just this is sort of a tip from John Haller's updated travel toolbox, no charge for this, is that Translate Google or Google Translate app that I
Mm,
have it on the home screen of my phone. And in Israel, you see something in Hebrew and you just put your camera up there, hit camera, and it gives you a translation immediately. So it also helps you know whether somebody's telling you the truth about the sign that's up there. But the signs there were red ones for murdered, and the others were
mm.
hostage.
Ab-
And
Absolutely.
and then there were flags throughout the kibbutz
Mm, mm,
that indicated where people had been taken hostage or killed.
mm,
Um, and that was quite moving. If I could just add one thing there, because I kind of said this on the bus to the big group. We had three buses, and uh, on the way back, it's a long drive, and so Mark, I think, was the one who said, "Hey, we should just introduce all of ourselves or say something that you think is important." What I thought was important was a sign that was in
yeah.
the
Yeah.
kibbutz there. You go out by the fence and you look across a field, maybe a kilometer, half a mile or so away is the Gaza border fence. Beyond that is Gaza. And you can see military activity and everything going on there. And it gives you an idea how close the people that lived there to that border fence for years. And also understand that the people that lived in these kibbutzim along the border were, and I don't say this in a derogatory manner, but they were sort of the left wing hippie peaceniks of Israel. They thought they could make peace with Israel. So over by the fence, there was a sign, a road sign, up on top of the one building there, and it said Gush Katif. And it was interesting. A lot of people didn't really know what it was, but 20 years before we saw that sign, the Bush Cheney administration forced Ariel Sharon to evacuate every single Jew,
Mm,
living and dead. They dug up the bodies of every Jew that they knew where they were buried and took them from Gaza to Israel. And so Gaza became the fantasy of these Muslim terrorists and other Muslims completely Jew free. This is what Hitler wanted, right? He
mm,
wanted the world to be Jew free. Here they have their own Palestinian state. And they created a terror state with, now the estimate is it's gone from 300 miles of tunnels to now 900 miles of tunnels, way beyond the, maybe more tunnels than the London Underground and the New York City subway system have combined.
yeah.
It's shocking.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but
And you,
the sign was put there pointing to Gush Katif. And so I had said to and I don't know if you were in that conversation or not, the first responder to Nova we talked to for about an hour. You might have been over at one of the other tree planting
mm,
ceremonies or talking to other people. But I had said when we were at Nova, I said, well, maybe if that sign's not there, maybe if there still is a Jewish settlement called Gush Katif in Gaza, this would not have happened. Maybe not have happened. And he said, no, you're wrong. It would not have happened. So this is just absolutely the reality of it there. And by the way, so I don't know who they were, so I don't want to identify somebody and get them in trouble. But there were younger people there following our group around, and I think they worked for the government press office. Um, and so they came up to me and they said, first I said, where are the videos? And they came and gave me a website where all these videos are. I'll actually add that to the show links. I'm telling you, if you watch it, it's revolting on an epic scale
Yeah.
about what happened. And these are Hamas videos
Hmm.
that have been compiled, but it's blocked in Israel. People in Israel can't go see that website. It's just shocking to me. So they came over to me and they said, come here. And they took me back in the communal room. I don't know if you were there or not. And they said, see that guy right there? They had pictures of people that lived in the kibbutz. And they said, that guy is the most liberal, left wing, pro Palestinian guy that lived in Near Oz. He's the one who put that sign on top of the building because it was sort of his way to sort of raise the middle finger to the people who believed that Jews should still live in Gaza. And he had family members killed on October 7th. So anyway, so that sign said it all. So anyway, so anything else about Near Oz or Nova that you thought was important?
Well, I think let's just remind ourselves when that the evacuation, the clearing out then of Jewish people out of Gaza, for people to remember that, and the pressure is very interesting. That while we were out there, Dick Cheney then died. You and I, we talked about that. Suddenly, being where past history, of course, past events, and how much, of course, they are relevant to the sad events, as you've just said, on the 7th of October. I think the other thing that really struck me again was having the privilege to then travel up north, where we were overlooking the Lebanon border, and looking at that.
At Metula, right.
Yeah, we
Far
had
north as you
seen.
can go in Israel. We were
Yeah,
standing right on the
absolutely. And
Lebanon border.
we'd seen the houses, because that area had been evacuated. I think there'd been a minimum of 80,000 Israeli citizens evacuated out of that area. And then houses, of course, have been hit by missiles. That rebuilding that are well and truly underway. So that, to me, on a personal level, to actually stand there, especially when you've heard about this through for many years, read about it, heard about these events, and also without naming people, when you have you talk to people, you meet people that then fought in the Lebanon war in 1982, just as one example. And then we went over to Syria, to the Syrian border, and to go to those defenses, to be reminded of the 1973 war, which I know you mentioned, and then it was mentioned with that major that was giving us a briefing, which was a real
IDF major, right?
yeah, IDF major, to listen to that gentleman talk about that. But to say that tank battle in 1973 is taught at West Point as a piece of incredible history within military engagement, but also to then reminded us of what's happened. So the 7th of October happens. We now see the way that up until now, which comes into another discussion, the way they then dealt with Hezbollah. We then see what happened with the fall of Assad, and Jalani then coming in, this ISIS Al Qaeda leader coming in, the man from terrorist to a suit. But to actually stand there and think about all of these events, to see how much the Israelis forces have pushed in to create the buffer zone, that is all in a discussion at the moment. With Jelani's recent visit, playing basketball with Semcon, and going into the White House to meet President Trump. I'm just throwing those out deliberate, because when you're there witnessing this history, borders, what has just happened, seeing the Golan Heights, realizing why this is so important as a defensive position. Um, all of those particular places, but of course, out of that, two others, John, to me, when we're hearing about going back to Lebanon, the border there with the Druze, the awful events last year when 12 young children were killed by a Hezbollah rocket, and hearing the mother talk about losing her daughter was beyond moving. And then also another mother talking about, I think, I know David, her son, then who had been a hostage, and she was talking about him. So they're pertinent because they are real. This is real people's lives, and hearing this straight from the horse's mouth. So, John, they are, I suppose, four particular pieces that, like many others, but those four are well and truly staying with me every
Okay,
day.
yeah, let me just sort of summarize it for you. I've put up a map
Mm,
to kind of tell you. So we went down to the Gaza envelope. It would be down here in the lower left-hand corner. We
yeah,
went to uh, some. I'm trying to see if Near Oz comes up here. I don't think it's going to show up on the map. So,
right.
oh, there it is, Near Oz. We went to Near Oz down here near the border. When I was on my tour, this is the red line here on the left is the Gaza border. So we went to this kibbutz. We also went to the Nova Festival, which would be probably, I think, in this area
Yep.
near Kisufim. And then I had been with my group about a few weeks before that. I'd been to Far Aza up here in the north near Sutherland. So just a few towns down from Sutherland, where 68 people were killed. So we were talking about the impact of that. Then we went to the Nova Festival site down there in what they call the Gaza envelope. And the one thing you need to understand is that Gaza, they built rockets and they would fire rockets every so often. And so people needed to have a bomb shelter. So at the Nova site, this was sort of a blessing and a curse because they were firing rockets. So everybody went to the bomb shelters. Well, then the terrorists went to the bomb shelters and they just slaughtered dozens of people in some of these bomb shelters that you can see. And the people, having been there a few years ago at a kibbutz called Niram, which I think was about the closest uh, kibbutz to the Gaza border. I was at the media summit a few years ago, and they took us there. And the lady described it. I've seen her on Fox and other places since, describing what happened on October 7th.
Mm,
And she said it's 95% heaven and 5% hell to live here. That it's wonderful. You have these little farming commune communities. They raise agriculture. They actually do some pretty high tech farming. But she said when the siren goes off, you have 10 seconds to get to the safe room. That's it, and it's shocking. When we were there, we also went up here to Sederot. There's a place where you can look over the to the Gaza border. You hear these massive explosions all the time. This was in early October before the hostage release deal got done. Sederot, we met uh, at the cemetery at the grave of the first police officer killed on October
mm,
7th with his widow for about an hour, and it was incredibly powerful. So uh, so you can see Israel's not that big. You can drive all the way, I think, from Eilat to the north in 7 hours. So we were based out of Jerusalem. Then we went up to the Damascus border. You see the body of water. There's the Sea of Galilee. You can see Damascus and Beirut. So to kind of give you an idea of how close everything is, um, we we went to a place called Mount Bental here near Al Qanitra. Israel's expanded the border a little bit to put in a buffer zone to protect people that are under attack by the al-Julani regime, which is headquartered in Damascus. So from Al Qanitra to Damascus, you're probably talking about 35 miles till you get
Yeah.
into Damascus. By the way, from Damascus to Beirut, which is where Hezbollah is headquartered and the Lebanese government supposedly is headquartered, that's about 50 miles. So when we talked about Metula, I'll put it right here in the middle. You can see Metula. So we were right up here in that corner on the Lebanon border, and the next day Israel was bombing places that Hezbollah's been building back since the pager attacks and all this other things. So things are very close. So I'm going to just say one more thing, and I'm going to let Mark talk because these trips, friends, are so impactful about what you see, what you learn, particularly with the current situation in Israel. I don't think we really have any idea. So we went to the Mount Bentel overlook, and then we went over to Al Ram, right here I'll put it right in the center of the screen. That's a sort of a, I don't know, kibbutz type village where they had dinner for us, and then they had a lady talk, and I'll just say that they brought a lady in and two fathers. It was a husband and wife who had lost an 11-year-old daughter and a father who had lost a 12-year-old boy at Majel Shams up here at the base of Mount Hermon, which goes up to about 9,000 feet above sea level. But sort of in the foothills here is Majel Shams. It's a Druze village. A Hezbollah rocket a little over a year ago hit a soccer field there, and 12 children were killed. The mother came and spoke to us. And Mark, I think it was one of the most moving
Yeah.
talks, emotionally gut-wrenching talks I've ever heard in my life from
Well,
that mother.
before John, and also before that, we'd had that gentleman speaking from Sweden on the internet to us as well, because this is really, really important to point out in regard to the Druze community that, of course, are in Israel, but the Druze community in Syria, and they're of course related, without sounding stupid, saying that they are. They've got family, people, Druze in Israel have got family in Syria, and the gentleman from Sweden was talking about that and giving us an
Yeah,
up.
he was a journalist. He joined us from
Mm,
Sweden, whatever you call it.
mm,
It's a area of Druze and Christians who are being persecuted,
mm,
kidnapped, killed
mm, mm.
by elements of the al-Shara
Yep,
al-Shalani regime.
yep.
The terrorists,
Mm,
the who they, I guess he looks good in a suit, Trump said, who
mm,
was received with pretty warmly at the White House last week.
mm.
First Syrian, I believe he was the first president of Syria to ever come to DC, ever.
Absolutely. And a man that, there was a price on his head of a few $1 million not that long ago.
Less than a year ago in December, when the revolution started and they started moving south towards Damascus, a Turkish funded, trained operation, Al
Mm,
Julani.
mm,
I think Putin said when Al Julani's group took over Damascus, there were 30 or 40,000 Syrian troops in the area.
yeah, yeah.
They took it over with about 800 people. And
Wow.
this went down very, very quickly. So when we went to El Ram for dinner, they had this journalist from Sweden, and he said, "I don't know if I'll be able to talk long because the internet may go down." And um, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, because Israel's expanded the border, has been taking aid packages in to feed the starving Christians and Druze there. So the lady who spoke to us at El Ram was the mother of the 11-year-old girl who was killed at the soccer field. Um, I don't emotionally how she talked about it since it's only been a little over a year since her daughter was was slaughtered by Hezbollah. She was 11, very pretty little girl. She spoke 4 languages. That's what I found kind of interesting. I have enough trouble with one. Um, she spoke Druze, Hebrew, Turkish, and she had taught herself German because her goal was to go to law school in Germany. 11 years old. I mean, that's a great gal. And then they also had the father there, the 12-year-old boy who was her friend. And the part of the story about the 12-year-old boy was that after they started counting up people after the bombing, after the rocket hit, he was missing.
Yeah.
And the father standing right there. I mean, and she said the reason he was missing was because the rocket had hit right next to him and literally blew his body into pieces, and we had to find pieces of his body before we could identify him as having been killed. And again, I don't know how she did it. So we saw that it was a very, very real, up close, personal thing that was happening there. Um, so what else, Mark? I mean, I've talked too much.
No,
So
John, not at all. I think they are the events that particularly stand and in my mind because of the personal stories. I mean, on the other side, for me on a personal level, there was a couple of people I had to meet out in Jerusalem, which was fantastic to have the opportunity to do that and take the time out to do that and build relationships in the way that that we are doing and everyone else on the tour is doing. I mean, if people think that it was like this easy tour, no, there were sometimes we had to be on the bus understandably at 7 a.m. in the morning to fight the traffic out of Jerusalem to get to where we were going. And at times, things were, because of traffic, things would fluctuate in regard to the times where we had to be and the deadlines. And I think the other thing is when you and I, there was one occasion when we went into the foreign ministry, and I'm just going to get the lady's name so I get it right. And we were addressed by Sharon Haskell, which that was a delight to have that, but also with some of the other people that we met. And it isn't about saying, oh, we're people there. Of course, there are certain individuals regularly doing podcasts that have their own shows, which is great. And it was fantastic to interact with particular people and to be encouraging, but also to hear their stories. John, the bottom line is that all the events that have gone on since the 7th of October 23, for me, I've been watching these avidly and trying to advocate in small ways as best I can. You and I have talked about this over the last 2 years, where we've seen the complete madness that's been happening in universities, colleges, all the marches up and down various capital cities in our countries and elsewhere in other cities. Um, but to go there and then build relationships to say no, we are advocating, we are pushing back to the best of our ability and to stand with Israel. But the thing that really has come to me as well was that we are seeing events really, as you said, every day things are changing. We're trying to keep on top of things. And again, as we've just been reminded, care of the BBC after splicing a Trump speech on J6, that 2021, I'm missing out 54 minutes of it. The key thing is how we are in this eighth war. The eighth front is the propaganda war and the media and the lies that are being put over. And that really hit me again because of what we're seeing again, as we've just said, when we've been up to the borders, we've been down to the kibbutzim, we've been to that particular kibbutzim. And I'll never forget, John, one of those conversations with a dear gentleman there who then had a gun over his shoulder. And then he said to me, where are you from? I said, from the UK. And he said, the UK. And I said, yes, we're not all mad and ill-informed, and we stand with you. And we had quite a conversation, which I really appreciated, but also to offer some encouragement. I think the isolation of the nation is real when they feel that the whole world is against them. And of course, as you and I have discussed, and I've begun to have those discussions with other people to unpack that, and other media outlets, quite rightly, like JNS, have been really on top of this, along with many other individuals, where they've been really looking at where is all this money coming from, Qatar, to finance this, to finance, to be, in regard to looking at all these protests, the amount of money that have gone into American universities and potentially over here. We've seen the debates at the Oxford Union, who is having those debates on the other side against Israel. All of this is now in the mix, where we are. Well, I know I am, is looking at where is this finance coming? Where has all this coming? The fact all these protests have all been so organized, from the river to the sea cult. That's what hit me again, John.
By the way, I was looking at one of the more despicable people in the human race, this special rapporteur, which I think rapporteur is should be properly translated UN lunatic, Francesca Albanese from Italy, who is just very pro-Palestinian. She lies all the time about what's going on. And she had said it was day 786 of the genocide. Well, she started from October the 8th, which was the next day. Israel didn't even go in to start to clean things up for a month. So she's counting the genocide started before it started. She's a complete liar about everything. By the way, I'll just remind people, it's not up anywhere yet. Uh, Thursday, November 20th at 3 p.m. And Mark, you can join us too if you want. I'm going to be interviewing Stephen Ben Yashai, Steve the tour guide, and talking also with Jamie Hancock from All Israel News. That's, I think, Joel Rosenberg's group in Israel, about Candace Owens and Tucker and some of the theological foundations that's sort of driving a lot of this. And I think Steve, the tour guide, you can check out his YouTube channel, has really nailed that. So I trying to help broaden his audience a little bit. I think he has an important message. So we'll be doing that Thursday, live streaming, as far as I know, at 3 p.m. Eastern on November 20th. So if you want to join us, or just note that on your calendar, it'll be up on the website, on the church YouTube and Rumble channels afterwards. So
I'll be delighted to join you, John. And the other thing, by mentioning those names, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, etc. I mean, those issues were debated as well. People were not afraid to debate those issues, which we can't be afraid to debate those issues, because people are saying some things that are just off the charts, appalling. And it's where is this coming from? And that's why I think the 20th of November is really, really important, to help people understand and drill down why these people have flipped, who's paying them, why are they coming out with this stuff. And that was good to begin that conversation in the groups and with people we met, but also that being called out from the front. That's really, 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 really important. There was nothing held back, John, to me. People were being very, very honest and saying, this is what we're facing. This is what the people are saying. You, I'm not saying this because I'm blowing blue smoke in your direction, but this is, but I just want to underline this, John. You said a very, very important comment publicly soon after the 7th of October 2023, whether that was on the 8th or the 9th, I'm not sure, but to say you said it immediately that that Israel, this issue will be the biggest dividing point within the church, right? Please correct me your words, but I think you said that.
Yeah, I said it would be the most divisive issue in the
Yeah,
evangelical
your
church till
church.
Jesus returns.
Mm.
And I think that that's probably true. The It's just I shared something Sunday. I'll just share this one thing. I was there on a tour in for a couple of weeks in October. Then I came home. Then I went back. And the funny story on the way back, I'll just share a humorous story in light of all the really bad news, and then we'll get to the events of the last 24 hours. But somebody came up to me on the plane flying from New York to Tel Aviv and kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, are you Joel Rosenberg?" And I said, "No, I'm not, but I do Bible prophecy stuff like him." She goes, "Oh, well, my wife, well, you look a lot like him." And I said, "Well, he is a very good looking man, from what I understand." So, and I actually met Joel saw him at the one of the receptions that we had. And I said, "Somebody mistook me for you." And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, me and about 6 inches of height might make it even." So we got a chuckle out of that. So Jamie from All Israel, Hancock from All Israel News will be joining us, and I just want to share. So I'll put up a map. This is a satellite map of the old city of Jerusalem. Um, and So it's a little hard to see, but you can see sort of on the right, you can see the Dome of the Rock, the Temple Mount. South of that would be the city of David. But my friend Roddy, so over here at the left side of about left middle, you'll see the Jaffa Gate, and then the Jaffa Gate goes in, and you go here to Christ Church, uh, Jerusalem Congregation, Roddy Harrell. They have a phenomenal little museum there and historical documents, and the most complete model of the Temple Mount. So if you're going there, hire Roddy to be your tour guide. He'll take you around. He can also get you hooked up with people down for the city of David, which he did. But this green area that you see here on sort of the left middle of the old city of Jerusalem, that's the it's this great place to just hang out.
Mm.
I sat there. Danny Seaman from JNS came over, and we sat there and talked for a few hours with some people from Canada. And it's like everybody in the world comes through this. It's like an oasis in the old city of Jerusalem. And so Roddy, one day we were there. My group had gone to Yad Vashem. I decided to go see Roddy, and he said, "Let's go for a walk." So we took a walk down through into the Jewish Quarter, and in the Jewish Quarter they have a replication of the Madaba map from Madaba, a church in Madaba, Jordan, which is probably third century, probably the most complete ancient map of the Middle East. But Roddy made a very interesting point. This is 300 AD. Christianity is still pretty young. It started out as largely Jewish people, Jewish sect, and it developed over time. But in 300 AD, they did this map of the Middle East, but they did Jerusalem and other places. But what did they not put in Jerusalem? They did not put the Temple Mount. So it was even back then, I think Roddy made a good point that they were trying to erase Jews from the story. And we see this happening today, and we'll talk about this on Thursday in some more detail. By the way, Candace Owens is now going after every Calvary Chapel church in the world. She says that the Chuck Smith was a Zionist. Some of the people that pastors who have started Calvary Chapel churches since 1960, the movement really started in 1965, are ex-military, and so it's probably a CIA Zionist plot to make Israel important.
I
And
think
she's,
she has lost the plot, John. I think she's just
I,
lost her mind, personally.
I don't even know if raving lunatic is
Hmm.
a good description. So we'll be addressing that on Thursday with Steve, the tour guide, Mark, and Jamie Hancock from All Israel News. We'll just be talking about that. It's and it was the other thing about the well. Anyway, so he took me over. So if you look here, you see this green area here in the middle, and if you go to the right, you will see Herva Synagogue. Went there and watched a movie about the 1948 war, and then we walked down here to a place called Betel Makash Square. And at the front of that square is what they call the House of Rothschild. It was a house for the poor that the Rothschild family had built back in the early days of the Zionist movement and everything. That Jewish quarter was completely leveled by the Jordanians. Those synagogues, the Herva Synagogue, and then also the great synagogue there in the square where they have had the menorah. The menorah's off for being cleaned or something. It's kind of weird to not see it there. See it one day and then the next day it was gone.
Yeah.
But in that square, there were people walking around, older people, younger people, kids playing soccer, a lot of activity. And over on the one side if you stand at the Rothschild house and House of Rothschild, and you look to the left, there's a wall, and on the wall's a Bible verse. And Roddy, very observant, pointed out. He said, "Look at that." And it was a group of IDF soldiers. And Mark, everywhere we went, we saw IDF soldiers. We saw them down at Nova. We saw them at the kibbutz. We saw them up at the Golan border. We saw them at Metula, up on the Lebanon border. But they're going and visiting all these heritage sites, like City of David, Western Wall tunnels. I mean, just they're everywhere. We said, look at that. There were two Orthodox soldiers in the contingent there, and they literally were hanging on the wall weeping as they were reading the Bible verse on the wall. And the Bible verse was from Zechariah chapter 8. Pull it up here. And this is a prophecy. I'm not saying the prophecy's been fulfilled, but they were looking at the same thing that I was looking at. And they're reading the verse from Zechariah, and it's this emotional thing. I mean, these are soldiers carrying guns, and these guys they're leaning up against the wall weeping because it was so meaningful to them. And here's what the verse says: so in the square, people milling around, old people, young people, kids playing soccer. On the stones there, it says this: "Thus says Yahweh of hosts, old men and old women will again sit in the streets of Jerusalem, each man with his staff in his hand because of age. And the streets of the city will be filled with boys and girls playing in its streets." Somebody years ago put that verse on that wall in that square for a reason. And so you can go there and you can see how it's being fulfilled. So let's see, I don't know how far we're into this. So we're probably going to go we'll go till we're done. Mark, if you have a obligation, you got to leave, you can go. And
Thank you.
I'll prattle on until
I'm fine.
We need to talk about what's happened in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. And do you want to reflect on? We've already mentioned Jelani going into the White House. I mean, I'll throw this out there,
sure,
and see what you think, because then in the last sort of 24 hours, 48 hours, even beyond that, the discussion of F-35s being thrown out there to Saudi Arabia wants the F-35s. Turkey, there've been that discussion over the last, for a long time in regard to Turkey turning around saying, well, we would like the F-35 too. And people may say, well, why is that a concern? Well, it is a concern because Israel has, I think, a number of F-35s, maybe has 45 F-35s or more on order. And that means that it has dominance within superiority within the air, which was shown in regard to the 12-day war with Iran. These are important things to hold on to, and of course, as the Abraham Accords, they are definitely there in regard to the President Trump. It's about making deals, the art of the deal in the White House, trying to do that and bring all this together. John, let's throw in this whole thing of Gaza, the peace plan. As some commentators greater than me have said, well, at the moment, half of Gaza is run by Hamas, the other half is run by the Israeli Defense Force. Has Hamas actually, have we disarmed Hamas at this point? We've seen bodies of hostages, bodies returned back to Israel. I think maybe as we speak, there's still one more body to be returned, unless I've got that wrong. I'm just throwing all of this in the mix because then there's that conversation about a number of nations coming together to create a peace force within Gaza. This is the concern where you hear the name, will Qatar send troops? Turkey send troops? Will Egypt send troops? If you think about those names and think about how they actually feel about Israel and their actions over the last 2 years, I'm sure that you, in agreement with me, would be rather concerned about that, even though I think Turkey has said, no, we're not going to send troops. There's a lot in the mix, John, that I, on a personal level and with other things, I find rather alarming. And the other thing I wanted to back up something you said when Albanese, sorry, not Albanese, that I'm thinking of the Australian Prime Minister, another lunatic, but that's another story. When we think about this lawyer, Francesca, and she's talking about the genocide, I think you pointed out to me a number of months ago, as it's been pointed out to others, the birth rate and the population increase that have been going on within Gaza, as well. So, and then suddenly
But
there's been.
you'll remember when we were over at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs,
Mm,
the
mm,
last day we were there for the media summit. We sat at a table. We sat with Josh Waller from the Israel guys
Israel guys. Yeah.
and Duran
John
Daron
Peter.
Kedar,
Yep.
Israeli Special Forces guy, who was one of the first guys down at
Mm,
Near Oz and Nova on October 7th. And I'll be interviewing him in the near future too.
yeah.
But by the way, I have a lot of people to interview. We
Yeah.
also I had a chance. Well, you and I were standing in line for lunch, and
Mm,
we were talking to Rawin Osman,
yep. Yep.
the Lebanese Syrian lady, Rawin Osman. You should follow her on social media. She's
Mm,
very articulate, simple, easy to follow. She was raised, see, would she say, Sunni father and Shia mother,
yep.
or
Yep.
maybe reverse, in Lebanon.
Yep.
And she hated Jews. And she moved to Europe and found out that the Jews are not too bad. And now she's moving to Israel to live full time and very articulate. So she's on my interview list too. There were really a lot of smart people. But Sharon Haskell, I want to talk about her for just a moment. She gave a speech to us, I don't know, 35, 36 minutes, a little Q&A at the end. And in her speech, by the way, I'll try to remember to put a link in it. If you want to search for it on YouTube, If you look for Israel Government Press Office and find that YouTube
Mm.
channel, then click on videos, you can go down, you'll see her speech there from November 6th, just 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. And remember in that speech, Mark, she told us about that there's some good things that Trump's doing. Um, I don't like the narrative. There was a hostage deal, and there's talks about a ceasefire and a peace agreement. There's no peace agreement at all. That's a complete.
Mm.
Anybody who's saying that is just not giving you the straight
Yeah,
story. I don't care
yeah,
who it is, and um, the so anyway, she said that the the attacks on the drug cartels that Trump's leading in Latin America. She wasn't more specific in that, but remember, she said they have intel. I've seen the intel that about a third of the money that Hezbollah gets from around the world comes from the drug trade out of Latin America.
absolutely. Yeah,
And so
yeah,
so Trump's doing that for a reason. So now I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson would, wet their pants over the fact that Trump is doing something that might actually benefit Israel. But what I don't think people understand is that Israel does a lot to benefit us. And anybody who says that does not have any idea what they're talking about. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is a very low information person. That's the best thing it's probably the nicest way to put it. Um, and so and Israel's on the front lines.
mm,
So let's talk about this, Mark, because we were down in Judea and Samaria.
yep,
And yesterday or the day before, Israel went in a massive operation in a town called Shabbat near Bethlehem, not in Bethlehem, but near Bethlehem, and rounded up about 50 people
yeah,
that were planning terror attacks throughout Israel. And Amir Avivi at the Israeli Defense and Security Forum yesterday in his briefing said that what they were planning would have far exceeded what happened on October 7th.
that briefing, by the way, was it'd be great if you would put a
I'll
link
put a
to
link to
that
that
as
too.
well,
Yeah.
because that those briefings are superb. And that was very telling and extremely alarming, along with another link I think we're put
Well,
in as well.
somebody in
Yeah,
Jerusalem told me today that if they came in, um, so there's a big dispute right now with, they use the term settlers as kind of a pejorative, Jewish people in Sheikh Jarrah. If you've been to Jerusalem and you go out the Damascus Gate, right near there is the Garden Tomb.
yeah,
Which I don't think it's the actual site of Jesus' tomb. I think it was elsewhere. I think the crucifixion site was elsewhere. But that's a discussion for another time. But the neighborhood right in that area is Sheikh Jarrah, and it's been very controversial on property disputes over these years. But there are terror groups active in those areas,
yeah, yeah,
and it's not too far of a walk. So if you go down, so you go at the Damascus Gate, which is kind of on the north side of the old city. Then there's Herod's Gate, and then you get down to the corner, which would be the north east corner of the old city. Then you go around the corner. There's a gate there called the Lion's Gate. That's where the troops came in to take back the Temple Mount in 1967. And it's not that far. I mean, I can walk it in a very short period of time. Uh, but they could come in through that gate and get to the Jewish quarter very, very quickly. And they're bringing weapons in by drones from Jordan and Egypt. And they're bringing in, automatic weapons and that type of thing. This morning, on the road from at the Gush Etzion Junction,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so if you go south of Jerusalem, about 30 miles south of Jerusalem is Hebron, where the tomb of the patriarchs is, or as Yishai Fleischer calls it, the tomb of the mamas and the
Mums and
papas.
papas.
Yeah, it's
Brilliant.
only Yishai can do.
Yeah.
And but at the Gush Etzion Junction, we went there. There's a phenomenal story about the community there, and then across Route 60, the Patriarchs Highway, is Efrat, and they're building a lot of homes in Efrat, and I'll talk more about that in the future. But at the Gush Etzion Junction, there's a shopping center, and if you remember, I think it was back in 2019 that Ari Fold,
Yeah.
the brother of Hillel Fold, who's pretty big on social media these days. I hope to interview him soon too. I mean, I have the time to get all these things in
Mm.
before things really begin to wrap up. But um, Ari Fold was stabbed there by a 15-year-old, severed his aorta. Ari ran him down and shot him. Didn't kill him. Kid was in prison. He was released in one of the hostage releases exchanges since October 7th. The kid that killed Ari and released back into that area.
Mm.
So at Gush Etzion this morning, a terror attack occurred. It was a car ramming and stabbing. There were 4 people injured, 4 Jewish people. One is dead. I think he's about a 40-year-old guy, and 3 are injured and in the hospital now. And this is what friends we have like Jonathan Feldstein from Genesis 123 Foundation, and this is what they live with. There's no fence. Well, there's a fence between them and the Arabs, but it's a fence that I probably could get over. I mean, it's not it is a barrier that will slow you down, but not stop you. I don't know. So we had this terror attack today, and then yesterday we had the UN General Security Council vote on a resolution that's going to go through I'm sure going to go through the General Assembly. It passed 13-0 with 2 abstentions. Russia and China abstained. Nobody vetoed it. And it includes a new provision for a U.S. sponsored resolution that it says it's a pathway to a 2-state solution if certain conditions happen. So it's a conditional pathway, but it's a pathway to a 2-state solution. So what do you think of that?
I'm not impressed whatsoever, and it's a sudden push. I mean, as you and I have discussed in the past, I call it the two-state delusion. I mean, it's something that the UK government is pushing, along with Canada, along with France, along with Australia, because these people can't forget or grow up from their student politics or have no understanding of history. Basically, what do I think of that? It's just this other attempt because we want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Two-state solution is not what it's about. It's about getting rid of Israel. And as you've raised the awful events today, and here we are, yeah, and the bringing this solution forward, it's relentless. It's not stopping. And John, I am as concerned as you are, as of course others that are living in Israel on the front lines of this. I'm also very concerned about internal security with what is going on, John. I really am.
Yeah, it's. And by the way, I saw this in the comments. Please hit like, share, subscribe.
Mm.
On that just helps us with the algorithm, supposedly. So yeah, I don't like this.
No.
I don't think it bodes well. We spent some time with Bill and Tanya Koenig at the Media Summit, and Bill,
Mm.
Bill's written the book Eye to Eye, facing the consequences of dividing Israel, and this is what we're seeing happen.
Well, I believe, John, at the moment within our own nation, we are facing those consequences. There is no blessing as a dear friend of mine, Jonathan and I were discussing today, there is no blessing for this for our nation in the UK, whatsoever, because everything we seem to be doing is going against Israel. Um, from the refunding of UNRWA to then going we want a two-state delusion. It's not for the UK. It's not a good place to live in at all at the moment, and not a good place to be. But Bill's book is very, very powerful in the way that he tracked. I mean, I think I remember, he said to me that he began, as I said to him, what motivated you to write this? And he said, well, I began to think about every time Arafat flew into America, things would happen that weren't positive, and I began to see patterns. So this is what I am concerned about as well. If President Trump starts dividing land, etc., then again he is in serious trouble, and I don't want to see anyone go there. I don't want to see him go there, but I'm
So
not responsible.
here's my X account. I mean, here are two young men
Yep.
pictures. There are pictures there that they were eliminated. They were the terrorists who conducted the operation this morning at Gush Etzion. And Gush Etzion, you understand, it's a shopping center, like where you would go to Walmart or the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's just. It's for the people of Gush Etzion that live in this area peacefully,
Yeah.
and they deal with this all the time. My friend Jonathan Feldstein has told me on a number of occasions we used to hire Arabs to come in and help construction jobs, remodeling jobs, uh, home cleaning services, and that type of thing in Efrat and Gush Etzion. He said, I don't know that an Arab person will ever be hired from these areas in the lifetime of me or my grandchildren, at
Yeah.
least, because of October 7th. And then
Yeah.
you have this attack today. And then here's this video here of this father of one of the Palestinian terrorists who did the attack today, and said that the thing he most looked forward to in his life was to be the father of a martyr. So the kid is a martyr,
Well, it goes back. It goes back
according
to
to the
that.
father.
It goes back to that conversation, John, on October the 7th, when that
Yeah.
Palestinian boy then phoned up his parents celebrating the awful atrocities that he'd done. I mean, it's a constant repeat. It's a constant repeat. Sadly.
It's terrible. It's something they have to do. So the UN Security Council resolution that was effectively sponsored by the United States passed with 13 votes out of 15. They got 13 votes in favor, 2 abstentions by Russia and China. That meant that Russia and China didn't think it was strong enough. Now process that. Uh, I don't like this. And then today, what do we have? Is we have Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the White House receiving a welcome that really is, pretty amazing. The welcome that he received at the White House today. It's just, and then the New York Times has been reporting inaccurately. I think in this case they have been. Um, so let me put this.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so what do you think, Mark?
Well, you're asking me that important question again. I am deeply, deeply alarmed. What is going on here? When I say it respectfully, when people say Trump is playing, 6D chess, what is actually going on here. The other thing as well. Let's just put this on the table, John, because it was discussed. Witkoff and Kushner were discussed at the summit, either between a number of us. Um, yes, we are so pleased. We are so pleased to see all the rest of the live hostages released. Sorry to put it in those terms, but we are so relieved to see that. And sadly, the remains of dead hostages and that soldier that they've been looking for since 2014 returned. Um, but at what cost? Because as you've said, this is the end of, or then the end of that war. This isn't a peace deal. And also, haven't recently the Israeli forces, of their leaders, have turned around and said, well, we've got to gear up, get ready basically to go in again. It's that people don't want them to win. We need to see Hamas cleared out of there. I don't know what's going through the administration's head, to be quite honest. And just to pick you up on something, you quite rightly said, when Marjorie Taylor Greene going, Israel is benefiting from this, that, and the other. Well, any money that they then spend, they then have to spend it within the American industrial complex. It's spent within America in regard to the technology that they then receive. They spend it in there for American jobs. And the other thing is that it's all the data that the American technological industries gain from that within that Israel then gives them. That's the important thing to say. It comes down to facts, trying to put the facts over properly of what is going on. But what do I again say? I find this really, really concerning, and pulling the wool. I just feel, are people pulling the wool over President Trump's eyes, or is he just desperate for a particular deal, or is he letting this play out and then we will see a different outcome? However, am I right in saying that Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu has turned around and said, no, there is not going to be a two-state solution. We are not going to be pushing that. John, am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I've talked a lot about this in the past. If I could go back to December of 2016,
Fine.
Obama's lost um, Hillary Clinton has lost the election. Trump has been elected. Obama is a lame duck. And the and so Trump announced. Um, Wait a minute. I want to make sure I got this correct.
Well, there was a
Oh,
UN
there
vote.
was a UN
That's
resolution
it.
on
That's
December
it.
25th,
Yeah.
2016, that the U.S. did not veto. They
No,
abstained.
they
And
abstain.
it was really pretty anti-Israel. And
Mm.
Samantha Power, who was the ambassador to the UN at the time, supported that. And I guess I'm trying to say is, well, I voted for Trump, and there's things that he does. I like that he's working to get shut down the Hezbollah money funding stuff. But I don't like this. I mean, I just was in Israel, and I can tell you that while there are some lunatic left people in Israel that want to make peace with the Palestinians, um, the fact of the matter is that way above 80%, 85% of people in Israel do not want to do this.
No, no.
And the thing that I thought about at the time, though, and again, I'm sort of tread into the controversy over Daniel 9:27. He'll confirm a covenant. And so let's just assume that this is part of end times Bible prophecy. I happen to think it is. I have friends who disagree with it. That's fine. But the word there is gavar. It means strengthen. And I said at the time, so this is 9 years ago, almost 9 years ago, that maybe the way this covenant comes about is that, we think there'll be this big fancy signing on the White House lawn or whatever with
Right.
this,
Yep.
but maybe it's something that's literally shoved down Israel's throat. And I'm telling you, we're at the stage right now where it looks like we're uh, shoving it down Israel's throat. And so I understand people get upset when you criticize Trump for that, but we need to hold our leaders accountable. And I'm concerned that um, I don't like what's happening. I'm reading the New York Times. I'm watching the deal. Trump's doing engage. His Trump organization is in a big deal with Saudi Arabia right now.
Mm.
It's probably going to be announced very soon.
And also,
So,
the business dealings of Witkoff and Kushner. These are really, really important to bear that in mind as well, and we can't sugarcoat that at
and
all.
when we were there, Mark, when I was there on my tour, they were doing the final negotiations for
Mm,
the hostage deal. Not a peace deal. Never had a peace deal.
mm,
Was never agreed to. And Witkoff is going down to Gaza to meet with one of the leader of Hamas, and he's acting like, "Oh, we're the same. I lost a son in the drug to a drug overdose, and you lost a son in a war." And it's not the same. And what
mm.
happened was the way that Hamas sees that as the most powerful nation in the world comes to us to try to
Yeah,
make peace.
yeah, yeah.
And this is Islamic supremacy, and
Mm,
so you saw a terror attack from that ideology today on a public highway in Israel. What are we going to do when it starts here? And you've had it in the UK. You've had all kinds of problems, and we've already had it. We're going to have more problems. And so now the crown prince of Saudi Arabia comes to the White House and it's all happy clappy. Hey, good to see you. And so what does the crown prince says? We want the F-35s.
yeah,
And I think the message from Israel was if you sell F-35s
yeah,
to Saudi Arabia, you better have an agreement from Saudi Arabia that they'll normalize things with us.
yeah.
That's not what happened today. I watched Crown Prince speaks English.
Mm.
He was saying we will be working, we will do normalization when we see a two-state solution.
Well, that is not going to happen, John. Um,
Unless the world decides that the way to do it is to shove it down Israel's throat. We don't, so, Daniel 9, again, assuming that this is operative,
yep.
it doesn't really specify. I know people will disagree with me. If you disagree with me, um, go do it on your own Facebook page, or your own comments, or put up your own video. But uh, there is this covenant there, but it's not extremely well defined what it is or how it comes about or who's involved. But I do think we see this group of nations aligning supposedly with Israel under the Abraham Accords to normalize things with Israel, with a huge economic component to it, which sounds a little bit like what we see in Revelation 17, the economic component that's involved in this end times beast
Mm,
system.
mm,
And we know from Psalm 83 that these nations around Israel, they conspire and connive together to get rid of Israel. And I'm honest with you, I see a lot of fluffy language, but I see a lot of people that I wouldn't trust.
yeah,
You
yeah.
shake hands with them, count your fingers
Mm,
to make sure you got them all back. That's just my point. Now, and we know that the land's going to be divided, that's part of it. I guess I don't feel like I have to support it, even though I know it's going to happen. It'll happen in the right time. Um, just like God reaching into the nations and drawing the Jewish people back to Israel is happening at the right time, even though Ezekiel 36 tells us they don't deserve it. But we Christians should understand that we don't really deserve salvation either.
Absolutely.
And
And
so
it is,
if God's going to keep his promise to Israel, you better hope he keeps his promise to
mm,
Israel
mm,
to bring them back and to have this final redemption thing that we talk about.
mm.
That's all part of this. It's a process. It's a long, drawn out process. And we have the, I think the blessing of living a long time is being able to see all of this unfold in your lifetime.
I
So I'm
hear you.
71, Erdogan's 71, Bill Koenig is 71. And so we've been around a long time to watch all of this unfold.
Mm, mm.
And
You
I,
mentioned, sorry, you mentioned an important name there, other than Bill's important name, but you mentioned an important name, which is Erdogan. And as you have really said and really saying this very loudly, which is to keep an eye on Turkey and on what is happening. And I think we're referring to the fact that how events are moving so fast, which is why, as you said, that Saudi prince going to the White House, to the White House today. Um, Another visitor, Erdogan, a few weeks ago, the Syrian leader. In the
that was
last,
it seems like a few weeks ago. That was just
that's right,
last week.
just last week, and then I'm sure that there may be another visit from Bibi very soon. I'm
Well,
sure.
by the way, too, one of the guys front and center sitting just to the right of Al-Jilani
Yeah,
at the White House meeting was, his name is Fedar. He is the foreign minister of Turkey.
right, right.
That was all a Turkey operation. I mean,
Mm,
I talked to Robin Osman about that a little bit. She said, absolutely.
absolutely right.
And, but we're seeing all these things unfold right in front of us very quickly. And I guess the thing, when we look at it from a Bible prophecy standpoint, I guess I would just say is be kind of um, amenable, flexible, that maybe it's not going to work out the way you thought it worked out is going to work out all the time. I mean, I saw somebody in the comments made some comment about, well, wasn't the land already divided? And the land is divided, Mark. I mean, you saw it as we drive up Route 60. What do you see on Route 60? Security fence everywhere.
Absolutely.
I
And,
mean,
and
whoever got the concession for selling security fencing to the
Frenches.
Israelis is a very, very wealthy man.
Absolutely. And John, there's a point I'd really like to make at this. Um, Say now, having I've been to Israel twice this year. You have been
Twice.
many times, twice, but you've also been on previous occasions on a number. Um, you cannot get any idea of what is going on unless you actually go there. And going once is not enough. Going twice is not enough. It's more than that to begin, so you can begin to try and of course have your listening ears on. That's that's the most important thing, and trying to learn on the ground what is going on. And I refer back to at the beginning of our conversation when you were talking about all the constructions. And I totally support you in what you're saying, not because it's you, but I've seen it with my own eyes. We are watching things. This is far more nuanced than people want. I think the complexities, I'm just saying, speak on my own behalf at times, are off the charts. They really are, you
So
know.
I don't know if you got to see this when you were there. I did on my tour. I tried to focus my tour on the biblical heartland of
Mm,
Judea and Samaria.
mm,
And it was funny because I told some people, Jewish people live in Israel, lived there for decades, where we were going, and they're like, "Are you out of your mind? It's an Israel biblical holy site. I'm going to go there to support it.
yeah,
I understand the risk,
yeah,
okay, but it's important to see. But I don't know how many, I would call them strongly committed Zionist Israeli Jews living in Israel. I've been to many places that they've never been to. Think about that.
Mm.
If it's in Area A, they're not allowed to go. There's big red signs every time you go into
Yeah.
Area A. Don't
Yeah.
You're not allowed to go in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
IDF soldiers don't go into those areas. So as we're driving up 60, we went up to Shiloh a couple times. We went up to Joshua's altar. We had to go to Joshua's altar, a biblical site on Mount Ebal in Samaria, with an IDF escort, armed IDF escort, and a bus with bulletproof windows.
Mm.
And as we were walking out to Joshua's altar, you had to park the bus kind of ways. It was a very difficult walk. It was very, very rough terrain. It gave me appreciation for the ancient Israelites who, and all the people who lived there that were able to walk around without falling over all the time. Very rough terrain. And there are drones flying overhead, tracking me. The one tracked me for a couple hundred yards. So it was a weird experience, but they were security drones to make sure everything went well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so as we're driving up to Shiloh, our guide pointed this out a number of times. And he said, look at all the new buildings in the Arab villages. And you can tell what Arab villages are. They're on the other side of the security barrier. They have a mosque, they have a minaret for a mosque. Jewish settlements usually have a vineyard. Um, but there are all these new apartment buildings. In Nablus, having been there about 8 years ago, and then again in October, the amount of apartment buildings in Nablus is shocking. Make 2 points about that. One, when you go to Mount Gerizim, that's where the Israel guys have their headquarters facility up there.
Mm.
You go to the overlook, it's near the Samaritan village, where the Samaritan temple was, where the lady pointed to the temple when she was meeting at Jacob's well with Jesus down in Shechem, now modern day Nablus. The amount of construction in Nablus is shocking, but right there in the middle of Nablus, right next to the ancient tell at Shechem, where the standing stone of Joshua from Joshua chapter 24 is located. I've gone there, I've touched it myself. There's no doubt that this is what it is. There's a refugee camp.
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
this refugee camp has been there since 1948 in the War of Independence.
Mm.
They still live in the refugee camp, even though there are dozens and dozens and dozens of brand new apartment buildings all throughout Nablus, all through these Arab villages in Samaria.
Mm.
And I noticed something as we were driving back. The sun went down and it was dark. We're driving by these Arab villages, all these brand new apartment buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was not, and I looked, folks, I'm telling you, I know what I saw. There was not a single light in any window in any apartment building of these new apartment buildings. When we went to we went to Shabbat dinner at a rabbi's home on a Friday evening, and we came out, we walked down to our bus by Solomon's Pools. Across the Solomon's Pools is in like a little valley between Efrat, Bethlehem Ephrata, by the way, very biblical place. It's where David played. David grew up, and the Messiah was said, from Bethlehem Ephrata would come one whose goings are from everlasting, from eternity. You read about that in John chapter 1. But anyway, I digress. But so you look and across it's the southern part of Bethlehem, right across the valley, security fence by Efrat, Valley, Solomon's Pools, another security fence, Bethlehem, all these new apartment buildings. We were there during the day. It's rather shocking to see all the new building. We went out there 10 o'clock at night to go back to Jerusalem.
Mm.
There was not, you look at Efrat, there's lights on all over the place. It's a series of condominium type buildings. In southern Bethlehem, all those new buildings, it's totally dark. Nobody lives there. It's fake. It's done by the UN and NGOs. Ask people in Israel, everybody will tell you about it. Some people will try to argue, oh, you're not looking close. I'm telling you, I saw it in 2017 when I was there. I saw it on an epic scale this trip. No, it's fake. It's like movie sets. It's to make it look like there are more Palestinian
Yeah.
Arabs living there than they are. Nobody lives there, folks. Why are they doing this? This is a propaganda operation by the UN and the NGOs. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the United States and British governments and French governments and UN members of the UN fall for it. It's a complete propaganda fake out. It's very strange. It's like a movie set.
Mm, mm,
So you probably didn't get to see that because I don't know if we were in any of those areas after dark when
yeah.
on our trip recently, but I saw it a number of times. Anyway,
But it's something that you have spoken about on a number of times, because of that reason. Yeah, as you've said, it's quite shocking with what you saw in 2017 to now. But also, and I'm not underplaying this. It's just the way, that's the English language to say it. It's what the UN is doing, is what the PA authorities, etc., are doing there, to then say, to put a marker and say that this is ours. And then also, I think, John, because I am on that road to really trying to educate myself on this issue, which is when you say Area A, this whole thing of the Oslo Accords, and looking at that complete and utter mess. John, can I just say something before we sort of
sure.
wrap up? Because I discovered this when we're reading around these issues. Going back to Gaza, going back to the withdrawal, going back to Ariel Sharon, linking that with Bill Koenig's book, Eye for Eye, and the actions of America as America came against Israel, and then what then would come against America, and then other countries would be interesting to do that. But the withdrawal that Ariel Sharon did pulls everyone out. 2005. In January 2006, he goes into a coma, and I believe then in 2014, he's in a vegetative state, and then he dies in 2014. What I've found interesting around the subject, I need more proof for this, but it has been commentated on, that he then was looking at Judah and Samaria and surrender, basically giving parts of that land away. I can't say specifically where that was, but that then was mooted, that he was then thinking about it. And I then find it, sad for him, but his families, I say that respectfully, but then going into a coma in January 2006, and just these consequences in regard to people's actions and the spiritual consequences of that. I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying that very, very, this is very, very serious and factual. So I want to do more, try and find more reading around whether that is something that he was then looking at then, which would have been then as it would be now. Deeply concerning, John, in regard to people's actions. I just wanted to remind people of that, and point that out, because I found it very sobering when we were in the Gaza envelope, when you were making that point. We are thinking of that the withdrawal and the consequences of that, because that that affected people that I know, that and have had the privilege to meet. It's a reality on the ground, especially when you say, "Well, we want you to leave your home, and clear this area," and the consequences then of that. John, sorry, I just wanted to just say that.
No, it's true. I mean, like in Sheikh Jarrah, the neighborhood just north of the old city in Jerusalem, which has been the subject of decades of litigation,
Hmm.
almost all of which has been found to be in favor of the Jewish people who bought property there. And then people say, no, they didn't buy it. And understand, people who sell property in these Arab areas to Jews are risking their lives to do that.
Yeah.
It's, I don't, it's easy to sit here and watch this and throw up your hands in despair that, what's going to happen? How does this work out?
Hmm.
And the answer is, I don't know. Okay. I know Jesus comes back. And I think people need to dispel the notion that it's like puppy dogs and bunny rabbits coming
Yeah.
back when
Yeah.
Jesus comes back. Um, I've always been fascinated by the passage in Revelation 6 when we get to the fifth seal, the saints under the throne, and they're under the throne in heaven. But what are they asking for? They're asking for vengeance. When are you going to come, Lord, and avenge our deaths? In other words, when are you going to come and pour your wrath out on these people who did these awful things? So it's a very interesting response.
Hmm.
It doesn't seem like traditional Christian, I guess, but nevertheless. Um, and Jesus says, wait a while till your number is complete. And then he's going to come back and take care of it. And it's not going to be a pretty sight. Revelation describes it in rather excruciating detail. The things are, and other prophets. So I guess that's the hope. That's part of the hope that we have, that it's going to get worked out. Because right now it seems to be an irresolvable problem. You know, Unfortunately, some people are treating it like it's just another real estate deal, and it's not a another real estate deal.
Hmm.
So, Mark, thanks. So, in 2 days at 3 p.m. Eastern, Mark's going to join us. It's going to be me, Mark, Stephen Ben Yashai of Steve the Tour Guide, superb YouTube channel and Substack. If you want to subscribe to that, that would be great. Help him out. And Jamie Hancock from who writes a lot for All Israel News, and has some really look up some of his articles at All Israel News. They're actually, I've been looking at them, they're pretty good. So we're going to talk a little bit about the growing anti-Semitism on the right. I hate the term anti-Semitism. It's Jew hatred is probably the better term. And we're going to talk about that. So, and Mark, where can people follow you at? Mark? Oops. Well, you can follow Mark at the Sutherland Report. So I'm going to sign off. See you in 2 days. And there will also be a technology roundtable on December 10th with the usual suspects. And Mark may have frozen off. And so that's probably a good time. So everybody, please like, share, subscribe, follow Mark's channel, the Sutherland Report. He's also on social media. And I'll put a couple links here in a little bit in the show description. So thank you so much for taking your time. We really do appreciate that. And God bless you. And we'll see you in a couple days. Thank you. My, oh, here we go. Goodbye, everybody.